Reddit, what's the worst thing a teacher has done during class? My math teacher, F, went into our classroom going around and said to every girl that had mascara or stuff on them that they are ugly. Like literally in their faces. She also once photographed my chest area because I wore a sweatshirt and was leaning forward while solving my math problems. I deleted it and was like, WTF. She then was like, yeah, that's what everyone could see if they go by. You are too revealing. Like WTF, I was wearing a big ass sweater and I was like 13 years old. She was insane. Man, I had two particularly shitty teachers. I'll tell one story. I had a 9th grade science teacher tell us at the beginning of the year, whoever could make a working trebuchet would get an A for the class. So me and my two friends went all in on the project. We didn't do any work, no tests, nothing. All that mattered was figuring out how to make a trebuchet. Well, we figured it out. It was about 17 feet tall and it shot a lawnmower engine about 100 yards, which was the requirement. Well, the fucking bastard started backpedaling about how he couldn't give us an A because he didn't really have that authority. He offered us a D because we didn't do any work. But I appealed to the principal and we settled on a B-. Bullshit if you ask me. Tell the entire class that the textbooks they bought, which were the ones recommended for the class, aren't the textbooks he'll actually be using, and he's actually going to be teaching you statistics based on his gambling habits. Had a teacher do this to me in college and I noped out of there real fast. For some reason my French teacher and I had a very bitter relationship from the get-go when I was a freshman. October that year I had my first seizures and got diagnosed with epilepsy, missed school for a week. When I got back into school I got to her class and after it started she said, in front of the entire class, "So Op, where have you been the last week?" I told her I was in the hospital and what happened and that I talked to the principal and they were aware of what's going on. She had the fucking audacity to tell me that other teachers told her they had seen me walking the halls during her period that whole week and I was just skipping her class. I just got up and walked out. She told me I better not because I'll regret it and I just told her to go fuck herself. That was, by far, the most embarrassing and rude thing that's ever happened to me in school. Fuck that lady. Had an English prof in college who spent the entire first class talking about how he's a published author and columnist yada yada yada. Picture English teacher who shows up to class in a motorcycle jacket, but drove a car to work. It was the early days of the internet so it took a little effort, but it turned out all he ever got published was some op-eds that ended up in crappy magazines with little to no circulation. Someone let it slip to the entire class, and his other classes, and I ended up magically failing the class. I wasn't present but was fairly known where I study. A teacher would always change the class arrangement to be in a circle instead of the square with tables and seats. They would push the tables away and make a circle. This was annoying but nothing we could do about it. There was always this student that would sit beside or relatively close to the teacher and hardly interact with others. For some reason this annoyed the teacher. One day he arrived late and the student who was in their place changed seats to give them the seat. The teacher got mad and started to belittle the student for trying to change seats when he was the late one and they should suck it up for not sitting in the usual place, to just sit anywhere. The class got very awkward and then one student told the teacher that this student always sat next to the teacher cause they were deaf in one ear and the other was had only 50% and getting worse, they were late cause he was on a appointment to see if was reversible or if would need the hearing aid, which they couldn't afford BTW, so he had asked to someone save their seat. The teacher got suspended cause they got multiple people reporting anonymously, but as far as I know nothing else happened to them. The student still is around, but now they got one hearing aid given by donation. Laughing along with bullies and then punishing the bullied kid for leaving the classroom. I was the bullied kid. On top of getting bullied, I got a report card as punishment for leaving the room. Think probation but in school. You have to get a written report on your every move for about a month. If teachers don't like you, they'll write down the slightest thing as a major incident. Oh, and I got beaten at home for getting the report card. A fantastic and wholesome childhood it was. Back in 1969 our history teacher punched a kid in the stomach so hard he had to go to the nurse. My teacher told us Santa Claus wasn't real the same week my mother was diagnosed with cancer. It was the end of November so right before Christmas too. Fuck that teacher. A sub for my 3rd grade class went crazy while she was watching us during PE. I remember her smacking kids, grabbing them by their clothes hard enough to rip them and tossing them, whipping kids with a jump rope, and throwing the tiny desk chairs at kids. I hid under some desk with a few other kids and then swung or tossed something at her when she came our way but I don't remember what. Another teacher heard the racket and ended up stopping her. After that they sent us all home early. My mom picked me up and took me to the district headquarters. She had me tell the superintendent what happened and then chewed him out. I'm not sure what happened to the sub, but I hope she was arrested. We went back the next day and it was never mentioned again. When I was like 15 to 16 I was in carpentry class and my teacher Mr. B would frequently start class high as heck on coke while operating heavy machinery. I was in special ed. Saying at least 90% of students at that school had autism would be an understatement. Once had a teacher go on a tantrum because a student didn't have time to do his homework and the student got annoyed and said something slightly disrespectful as a response. The teacher, in front of the entire class, said, "You autists are all the same." I didn't really have any shitty teachers, but I did have a horrible school counselor. She'd try to bring her religious views into school. She was very anti-dating and even called multiple girls sluts just for having crushes. In regards to me, I had a really bad illness that kept me out of school for several months, and would have to leave class often once I did return. She straight up didn't believe me or my doctor and kept threatening to hold me back a grade if I didn't stop faking sickness. Don't know if she actually had the power to do that. The worst part was when she started giving my dad false information about what was going on at school. Divorced parents, which made a bigger wedge in my family. It wasn't his fault, but he eventually learned the truth and hated her just as much. We finally got her to back off by having both my doctor and the district superintendent tell her to F off in person. Last I heard, she's still working at that school. One teacher broke down crying and screaming, and refused to teach our class anymore. Another smashed a school desk, chair combo into pieces in the middle of the AutoCAD shop. Once my physics teacher made every guy in class stand up and she insulted them one by one, and my music teacher used to bring cigarettes to class in a plastic bag and throw art pallets at us. I had a band teacher who stopped the marching band during a set and told one of the tuba players, "You play like you look." Was deep in my head and was a ugly skinny, and a new teacher came in. The principal told him about my problems, so he knew. His eyes straight but fall on me and always gave me a dirty look. When I asked to go to the bathroom, BC I don't feel well, I might get a panic attack and need to calm down, he looks at me and says, "Look, name, stop being such a attention whore. I know you cut yourself. Everyone knows just by looking at you. You are doing all this just because it's trending. You're not actually depressed, just a teen who wants everyone to pity her. Get over it. Everyone has problems, and some even worse than yours, so don't make it seem like yours is bad. BC, it isn't." He stayed for another month until he got fired for assaulting the girls. Had a professor who just played another professor's lecture. Any questions could be answered by the TAs during smaller classes. Man got paid to play a video and read the news. Shitty French teacher, didn't teach French, only spoke it. She brought in 3 baby mice as class pets. 2 of them died that same night, but she didn't bother removing them, so the still alive one was just sandwiched in between and presented to the grade 2 class. We never saw the mice after day 2. I asked her where the water fountain was during a trip to an ice rink, and she led me to the change room, cupped her hand under the sink, and had me drink from that, which I regrettably did. Called my mom, supposedly drunk, to wish my brother a happy birthday at 10 p.m. even though it wasn't his birthday. We both got her for different years. Once scolded me for using too much candy when making graham cracker gingerbread houses, even though I grabbed like 5 Jelly Bellies and other kids were making the goddamn White House. And she always smelled like literal, actual ass. In middle school, my art teacher picked up a stool and threw 20 feet across the room at the wall because a couple kids were talking. Then I started laughing at his outburst and got sent outside with no coat in the 40-degree weather for timeout. Haha. There was a teacher who literally enjoyed punishing students even for small reasons. One day the teacher asked one student a question and he couldn't answer. Then he stuck a pen between his 2 fingers and started to press. Each time the boy was screaming, he slapped him and told him to be quiet. And after some time the boy was crying and he was also saying ill words to him. Me and my friends tried to stop him and he gazed upon us and went outside. We complained about him and he got fired. The boy didn't come to school for some time, and for some time he was very afraid. This incident affected many other students also. History teacher excessively refers to African Americans as Negroes and later uses the N-word. Constantly brought up the idea of shooting himself in the car park. We weren't sure if he was kidding. I have a lot of bad teachers in my school, but here is one. We had a math teacher who had been known for having the loudest voice and being the meanest. He wasn't mean, no, he was an abusive MF. He would slap the kids and put pens between kids' fingers and pressing on them. The teachers didn't believe us. He would mock us and say the bullshit about us and even curse. And guess what? He is still in that school. It's been 3 years. WTF is he doing there?